Hey, tell you honest, I told my wife, I'm like, man, I don't know what's gonna go down, because anytime you're about to have an amazing conversation like this, or at least for me, I'm excited.
No.
Because you already know I've been harassing you guys about this for a while, because the conversation is just it's amazing. You know what I'm saying? Of like how we be able to help people.
Yeah.
Just understanding that we could. I know we throw out buy the block out there just like that, but really how we could go into our own communities, buy real estate, do the right thing, at the same time build wealth, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because I noticed,
do both.
because and I'm gonna let you introduce yourself, but it had me laughing. I think you were in bed, and maybe your husband was next to you, and you were checking people like, don't plan to come in my city buying property just to sit on it and wait. And I like that, because you're not just trying to make money, you're trying to, build the community at the same time, which is very, very possible. But before I go further, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself. Like, let the people know who you are, what you think they should know.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Kiara. So I am one half or one third of Charm City Buyers, depending on if my daughter's trying to be with us or not at that moment with this business. But yeah, we invest in Baltimore. So we are passionate about building wealth and building Baltimore. And really, to your point, understanding that you can do both, right? You can make a positive impact in the community. You can make a positive impact in our hoods. And make sure that the dollars make sense at the same darn time. So we're all about, leveraging our experience, our journey, and our passion for Baltimore to make sure that Baltimore is not one of another example of our cities that have changed, and we just kind of watch that change happen and weren't able to be a part of what that change looks like. And so we're all about changing the narrative for what you think of when you think of Baltimore, number one. And number two, what Baltimore will continue to look like as it continues to develop. So that is me.
Amazing. And I want to do this in the beginning, the middle, and the end. I just want to let everybody know, tomorrow evening, they are having a free, am I correct? Free, right?
$3.99. Free.
A free course telling you how you can invest in Baltimore. And for the people that are watching, like, well, I'm not in Baltimore, I just want to do this in my own city, still jump on, because the information transfers. Maybe you're dealing with some different laws that are different, but the gist of it, the meat and bones of it is all the same. So make sure you go, let them know how they can find that information before we get going.
Yeah, you can go to the link in our bio to register. It's tomorrow night, and we're talking about what it is that you need to know about what's happening in Baltimore and why now is absolutely the time to get in the game. So yeah, definitely join that tomorrow. The link is in our bio.
Perfect. And before we get started, I do not want you to feel bad at any point. If you just like pause, I want to drop a plug, because this is what we're about. My platform is to get the information out to everybody.
Absolutely.
And understanding that they could go to you, get this information for free, and then from there make decisions as they move forward. And that's what I love. So tell me a little bit about yourself and your husband. How did y'all get started? And I could see that you have a deep love for Baltimore. It's not just like, oh, I moved there because I can make money. What made you, like, where did this come from?
Yeah, so starting all the way to the beginning. So Khalil's born and raised in Baltimore. So he's from Baltimore. His parents are from here. His mom's from Baltimore. So he has roots here that are really deep. I grew up not too far outside of Philadelphia. And so we used to come to Baltimore all the time growing up, right? So I've always had a relationship with Baltimore. That was back, I didn't know to go to like the real spots. We'd be at the Phillips at the harbor, go get a buffet down at the harbor in Baltimore. That was, our childhood memory of summers growing up. So I've always had love for Baltimore. which is one of the reasons why I've fallen in love for the city outside of Khalil being born and raised here. And then I also, you know, my love for the city grew where I actually worked for a software development startup in Baltimore. Was one of my first jobs when I moved to Baltimore, and they loved Baltimore. So they taught me like really what was going on and what was happening. That kind of really fulfilled and set that foundation for loving the city just as much as I do. And so Chloe and myself, we got started fresh out of college, like a year out of college. Him and I have been dating for a couple years. It was kind of like, well, what is we doing, bruh? Like, what's going on both ends? And so we talked about, you know, what our goals were, what we were looking to do and accomplish individually, and then what would that look like if we continue to merge our lives together? So we set that foundation in our relationship to talk about, like, where is it that you're trying to go? You know, here's where I see myself, and how do we really align those two things? And so real estate checked a lot of boxes for us both as far as what we wanted to do and accomplish. And then from there, just dove in. So we're about a year. I was a year out of college. Chloe was a little bit more. And we bought our first deals, a multifamily property, did a huge renovation. We can talk about all that kind of stuff, but really fell in love with the opportunity to turn vacant houses into homes, right? And go into these disinvested neighborhoods where the numbers make all the sense in the world. But when you talk to people at like the RIA meetings or, you know, these other places that a lot of people go to learn, at least back then before it was like YouTube and Instagram, all that kind of stuff, you know, they weren't trying to touch it, but we were like, this is an amazing deal. And so we fell in love with the opportunity to go into these disinvested, what we call forgotten neighborhoods, and really turn these vacant houses into homes. And so that set the foundation for everything we did from there.
Oh, that's amazing, because a few things. The first one was that a lot of people don't understand, and your success is just the results of the little things you did beforehand, right? So many people probably like, oh man, I want to be like them, and they start a YouTube page but they don't understand that you have to put the work in. And something that's very important for the people that are dating, the people that are married, that I hope y'all caught, is that when they were leaving college, they're like, yo, like, what are our goals individually, and what are our goals together? And that's amazing, because my mentor, I think he's on here, he does kind of what you're doing, but in Boston. He started off just like you, buying a 3-family home, been doing it for 25 years, and to the point now that he's a private money lender too, so he helps people in the community. And when I went to him about real estate, the first thing we spoke about is my relationship with my wife and making sure that we're on the same page. So that's very very important. So thank you for sharing that. And I hope a lot of people will brush over that, like, I don't want to hear about that, I want to hear about real estate. But if you want success, you have to be one. And even if the other partner, that's not their goals, at minimum, at least you're on the same page, so they know how they could support you.
Absolutely. We have so many mentees who are couples where we end up becoming like your investment. We're like a little investment therapist in there sometimes, because you have to be on the same page, because it's hard to build something, you know, and your other half isn't on that same wavelength. And so even if real estate's not their passion, you still have to have that conversation. Like, okay, you know, for me, my goal might be to buy houses. Like, babe, what do you see for yourself? How can I support you as you support me? Because there has to be a partnership. Like, people don't want to always talk about the fact that marriage is a contract, just like you sign a contract with a business, right? So we have to make sure that everyone plays their position and everyone's doing their role, because together you hit those goals, regardless if you're working on them every day or not. So, you know, that's a really big thing for us. So even if he and I are working on completely different projects, a lot of times they support each other. And we have each other's back throughout the way, because at the end of the day, where we're going and our why, all those things are aligned. Even if, and Lord knows that anyone who might be on here that's one of our next gen family, like, we might do things 100% the opposite way, right? But we gonna get it done. We just gonna do it very differently. And we just, over the years, we've been together for 12 years. So at this point, we just know what it is. Yeah, we've been together for a while, but yeah, that's been a really big thing because businesses has its ebbs and flows, and so does marriage and relationships. And so if you're not on the same page on one, it's going to impact the other. So you want to try to manage all of that as best as you possibly can.
Yes. And it's funny because I put a video out there, and the basis of the video is basically I was saying, I didn't marry my wife just because I loved her, right? If I was honest, throughout my life, I felt like I was in love a few times, right? But I married her because when we started dating and talking, I could see that our goals, even if they didn't like truly like just line up, but they complemented each other, and we both wanted to strive. So she and finances and stuff like that. So that is just amazing. So one of the things you said that really caught me, if you want, and correct me if I say it wrong, it says, if you want to fight for the hood, buy the hood, right? How do you say it?
Yeah, the best way to fight for the hood is to buy it.
Exactly. And a lot of people, that's what we need, because one thing that I noticed, and when I was on your Clubhouse and is that a lot of times people always think it's just, because the low income people can't buy houses, that we're not in those communities. And most of the time is because the people that do have the money, our middle class people, are following the trends of other cultures. We set the trends everywhere else, but when it comes to real estate, we follow other trends. So when everybody was moving to the suburbs, we ran to the suburbs. And then they moved back to the city, and now we trying to run back to the same houses we owned and can't afford it now, right? Yep. And it's insane. So just getting this information out for people. So tell me about your first 3-family home in Baltimore. Like, how did that go, so people get a sense of what got you in love with this?
So first off, shout out Next Gen Takeover. You already know those are my babies, my family, my mentees. But the 3-family happened to be in Hartford, Connecticut. We were actually in the Northeast up by you, because you're in Boston, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So so when I graduated college, I had a really great job in insurance, of course, in Hartford. And so we went up there. Khalil was in Baltimore after he graduated college. He always says he followed love, but I always say I'm pretty cool, so he couldn't handle that without me. So he came to Connecticut as well. And so we spent a little bit of time up there. And while we were there, that was kind of our first big, bite into full-time, working until you looking at your 401k, and it's like, all right, you need to work 47 more years to be able, you know what I mean? And so that was like, oh, we're not going to do this, right? This isn't going to work. So that's when we sat down and had that conversation about like what our goals were and where we were looking to go. And so while we were there, that's actually where we bought that 3-unit in Hartford.
Okay.
So we bought a 3-unit in Hartford. It was a shell. Our original goal was to wholesale it. However, nobody wanted to buy it because it was in the hood. But we were like, no, these numbers make sense. Like, we know that this is a great deal. And so we networked and connected with an organization that was mission aligned, as in they were looking to develop this same community. They ended up working with us for the construction on that project. So the first deal was $120,000 renovation to this 3-unit shell. So we did that during that process because life happens during real estate. Everyone wants to show the before and after pictures, and that was going on behind the scenes, right?
I'm learning now.
So during that process, my goodness, what we do? We were engaged, we got married, we had a baby, right? And so there was a lot happening in that very first deal. We relocated to Baltimore. So that was during that time period. So it was a lot of change. So a lot of just everything going on at the same time. But we did that rehab. Well, we got engaged before that, but we got married and had the baby while we were doing the renovation, and then moved back to Baltimore. So the rehab took about 7 months, which wasn't too bad. And then by the end of that year, we had, or the beginning of the next year, we finished up the project in like November. All 3 units were rented by January. And so we took that property. We were bringing in around $2,500 a month. Our mortgage was about $850. And we just took that.
People don't understand, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's crazy. And where I live now, the only, like, it sounds crazy. People say I make it up. I bought this house because I could not afford to rent in Boston. Mm-hmm. And people are like, well, that don't make sense. Like, you couldn't afford to rent, but you have money to, and I was like, yeah. In Boston, you have to have $2,500 for the rent. You have to have first, last, and security. That's $7,500. Yep. And then where I bought, they were trying to get people to buy, so I didn't have to bring nothing to close it. Just, you know, people don't understand. So that's amazing. So from what you learned from that deal, so that sparked your love for real estate.
It did. So that sparked my love for investing in these forgotten neighborhoods and really turning these vacant houses into homes specifically. So that sparked our love for that transition, for those before and afters, for that transformation. I had always been really excited and interested in real estate. I was one of those people. So I was really young and really loved real estate. So I always had planned on buying houses. Just didn't all the way know what that was going to look like. But yeah, that absolutely set the foundation for the types of properties, where we look for them, and really the level of renovation. So if anyone looks at our rehabs, right, it's like a front wall with a tree growing up the middle. That's it, right? So
sometimes you don't even have a front wall.
sometimes it is barely there. And so our very first deal was a shell. And so although we don't typically recommend people do start that way, that's what kind of set the foundation for the level of renovation we do now as well. Shout out to I Am Boss. I see you bought a building in Baltimore. Love it. For you.
I was about to tell them they should go in your class tomorrow and then you can connect. Yeah.
Absolutely. You should definitely. We have that class tomorrow. Why Baltimore? Why now? What's popping in Baltimore that you need to know so you can get down and start to invest with us or alongside us in Baltimore. So absolutely.
All right. So I know we have this class tomorrow, but since you mentioned it, what's popping in Baltimore? Like, why should people come to Baltimore?
Yeah, so Baltimore, there's so many reasons. I mean, you think about all these other cities like Baltimore that are historically blackety black, right? Where are they now? So a lot of times we can't afford to live in them. A lot of times ourselves, our cousins, our aunties, sold a house that maybe we shouldn't have, or, moved away. There's all these different things and we can't go back. And now people are literally building wealth off of the homes that we grew up in, right? And so for us, Baltimore becomes this place where we have the foresight now to make better proactive decisions. And so our goal is to make sure that people know and understand this is what's happening, this is what's going on, and why you need to make better proactive decisions now and start investing in a city like Baltimore now. All right. Make sure my do not disturb is on, because
no, it's okay.
So you're making better proactive decisions now to get those different results. And not only that, Baltimore still has a ton of opportunity. So even as we talk about how hot the market is, how amazing Baltimore real estate is doing, there's still so much more work to be done. And so it becomes an opportunity to truly build wealth, particularly Black wealth, right? That's what we're all about. And being able to build Black wealth through real estate in the city that, we'll talk about it tomorrow, but the city that has this history in real estate of keeping us from doing that. And so we really want to change the tide. And I think we're in such a unique position because Clue and I are extremely active in Baltimore real estate, right? We know the players, we know what's going on. Clue's, works with a lot of important people around the city. And so we're able to take that and truly lift as we continue to climb and make sure that folks are in position. Like we have, folks in Baltimore, folks who work with us who are buying their own blocks, right? And what does that mean when we're able to transform a city like that? So, but yeah, Baltimore's a spot. And we got great food too. So you can come here, you can eat, buy a house, you'll be good, build some wealth, make some money, have a good old time.
All right. So coming from the Northeast, and you obviously bought in Hartford, the prices out here are outrageous, right?
Yep.
And so when I hear stuff like this, I'm just like, buy a block? Like, I'm just thinking just this street where I'm on, and I'm way outside of Boston, it'll probably take me about a good 6 million, right? Just this side of the block. So are there programs out there that are helping people do this, or is it like so someone that's thinking about but they don't believe in themselves? And obviously you're gonna go more deeper in the course tomorrow, but like how can someone beginning, like what's the prerequisite to do something like this?
So, I mean, there's levels, right? So there are absolutely programs for folks that did like similar to what you did in Boston, right? You said that you didn't have a down payment and all that kind of stuff because they were looking for folks
outside of Boston.
Outside of Boston. So in Baltimore, there are so many incentives for people to use and leverage for a down payment and closing cost assistance to buy property to move in Baltimore. Full stop. Money everywhere. There's so many different incentives for folks to move into the city. So that's number one. Number two, and this is actually what trips people up in Baltimore and why a lot of people actually fail. And this is what we really look to avoid. So because you can come to Baltimore, you can buy a bunch of houses for a few $1,000s, right? What people fail to understand is not only the level of renovation that is required to get those properties into a position to get you some money back, whether you're going to sell it or rent it, but also understanding the process of finding success in Baltimore, especially with the construction. And so we have like this whole Baltimore blueprint on like how you really get it done. But what happens is people get like really distracted by I'm going to buy a $5,000 house. I'm going to buy a block and it's going to cost me 30 grand. I own a block. Well, yeah, but what is that doing for you or anybody else? You're just paying taxes. You're just fighting the city for environmental fines. You're just, you're not making progress. You're not adding value in the city. And you're barely adding value to yourself after you get all these fines that the city about to smack you over the head with. And so for us, it's really about tapping into the resources on the ground, because without it, a lot of times they don't care how much you've done in another space. It's about how much you've done in Baltimore because of how different this system is. As far as I saw some investment grants, there are some incentives, and we'll definitely dive into those tomorrow as well. But there are some incentives for investors who are not looking to move into the property, but looking to leverage the property for an investment property. And so it's just structured a little bit differently. Sometimes when you're thinking long game, it has more value. But there's absolutely grants and incentives and tax incentives and stuff for investors looking to buy in Baltimore, for sure.
All right, before we move forward, it looks like the halfway point. So I already told you, shameless plug. Let people know, how can they get this information about the free course tomorrow, letting them know about buying in Baltimore?
Yeah, so you can go, the link in our bio. There's also a bit.ly. I think the bit.ly is Hood Profits 1220. But yeah, if you go to the link in our bio, you can register for the class. It's tomorrow at 7:30. We're talking about why now is the time to invest in Baltimore, going through the things you got to know about what's happening here and really putting you in position to make sure that you know how to navigate Baltimore, you know what needs to get done, and of course how you can work with us along the process to make that happen.
All right, perfect. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I can hear you, but the video was coming in a little different, so I wasn't sure if that was just on me. Yeah, but Yeah, I can hear you. It's just the video, but it usually clears up. So,
Okay.
so how are they with? Oh, it's very good now.
Okay, cool.
How are they with investors? Like investors coming in. So, like someone like me that maybe right now I don't plan to come to live in Baltimore, but I'd love to buy for the long run. Like one thing my mentor always tells me, and I always like to drop him because he helps me so much. So I like to help him. Norfolk Capital. Y'all can find him. He always tells me the goal is when most of the people, when he started 25 years ago, were buying to flip, right? Wholesaling and doing whatnot. Yeah. He went the slower route of buying, holding, refinancing, buying another one, and then it was almost like that the snowball effect. It was a snowball, but when he started gaining steam, he started knocking everybody. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's what I would want to do. So Baltimore is friendly with that kind of stuff?
Yeah, as long as you know where to buy and how to structure together, you know how to navigate Baltimore, absolutely. I mean, Baltimore property values are relatively low, and be it right or be it wrong, the rents are high. So when it comes to your ROI, Baltimore tends to be higher than most other cities. You just need to make sure you understand what neighborhood you're in, and you know how to evaluate properties in a city that is block to block, right? So there's a lot of success to be found and made in Baltimore for sure. But you just need to understand and make sure that you're positioned to make those right decisions and understand how to navigate Baltimore. When you know how to navigate Baltimore, you can absolutely win here. Absolutely. You just need to make sure that you're going to get that, because when you're doing that strategy, you're buying rentals and then you're refinancing out and you're pulling cash out and you're trying to flow it through, you have to make sure you understand valuations. And so in Baltimore, you can have a block where houses are selling for $60,000 ARV within 2 blocks of houses that are selling for $300,000 ARV. You have to know the difference. And so if you don't, you're getting stuck with you're getting stuck on these short-term loans. You can't get out of them because you can't get the valuations. No one wants to do these low property value loans. And so that's where it really comes in to knowing someone that knows what they're doing on the ground in the city. But yeah, for those, like we've had people, like we have, I'll do a shout out because I saw them in the chat. We have a bunch of folks who will work with us and scale up and have double-digit portfolios and like
shout out Next Gen.
Yeah, shout out Next Gen all day, Next Gen family, Next Gen takeover. But a lot of folks will leverage that strategy. And so being able to come in and then snowball and then just really build your portfolio. So it's definitely possible. You just have to have the right resources and team to make sure you know what you're doing if you're not of and from Baltimore.
All right, perfect. And just to let you know, I'm signed up for the class tomorrow. I just got a phone call from you reminding me about it. And I was like, Baltimore? And I was like, oh, snap. Like, yeah, I like that. That was nice. So I'm definitely going to be on it to learn this. So if you're giving tips to someone that is like, I just saw my frat brother, he's in Chicago. So exactly what you're telling me, that's what he tells me. He's like, yo, he said, you will go buy a nice house and then not even on the same block, and there's a boarded house right next to it. And he's like, yo, if we're in for the long game, like I understand people always talk about the shooting in Chicago, whatnot, but this is the place to be, kind of like sounding exactly what you're telling me about Baltimore. So if you're going to give advice to some other people around the country that are trying to take your model and rebuild their communities, their hoods, whatever they want to call it, what advice would you give them?
So if you're starting from scratch and you're starting to learn, one, tap into, like, they always say what the things that they don't want you to know, they put in the newspaper or something. Start reading, right? Oh, okay. Paying attention to what's going on the ground. Be very diligent in that, because they're sharing not only what's happening, but what's being planned. So I've definitely tapped into the local newspaper. Now with COVID, it opens up opportunities to tap into different meetings that they're having, from the housing department to local community associations and
And because
neighborhood
it has to be virtual now.
because it's all virtual. So it's opening up the door for more people to tap in. So as much as you can, start to go and just learn not only what's happening, learn what's planned, and learn and understand what the community is looking for. Because in most cities nowadays, they are a major gatekeeper to development. So they know what's going on and they know what they're going to shut down. And so, it's if you're outside of a city and you want to learn, really you want to spend that time to listen, right, and read and be a student of the game. And then, of course, spend that time walking the streets, because there's nothing like walking around a city that you're looking to invest in and add value to and earn value from, and talk to the people, because they'll tell you what it is as well, for sure.
Perfect, man. What y'all need to do right now, if you don't know it, I'm gonna tell you, she just dropped some gems. So you need to go with the heart and go crazy with the heart, because you might not know she is dropping some serious gems. Because I didn't even think about that in the city I am in, they are going virtual with a lot of these meetings also. And it's easier because a lot of people say we don't have the resources, we don't have the knowledge. And I'm like, nah, because when I'm on Facebook, I keep seeing graduate, I see lawyer, I see all this, but it's the knowledge, right? People don't have the information. So like, I was in your clubhouse yesterday, and what that lady Sherry said,
Sherry was dropping bombs.
So
Sherry was amazing.
Yes, about the bank-owned properties. And then I called my mentor, and he's like, because he's been in the game for 25 years. People know he's the buyer, right? He's like, yo, he says, I have all that ready. Actually, I'm going to go and make a phone call, But for me, I didn't know that. I didn't know who I should be talking to, who I should be sending. I should have sent a bottle of wine 5 years ago to prepare for next year, right? You have to know this stuff, right? And and that's great. And the first way to get started is the virtual meetings, getting involved. We're seeing this wave of people from our communities getting into leadership roles, following up with them, finding out, and don't feel as if you're putting them in trouble, because what the information they have is public knowledge. They will tell you. You just have to ask sometimes, because sometimes they don't even know what type of information they are sitting on. But
yeah, absolutely. I see somebody talked about some Sowebo. I will never call that area Sowebo. That is so gentrification highlights. But
Sowebo. So what's Sowebo?
It's Southwest Baltimore. You know how when they start to try to move forward with a change up, all of a sudden they want to name something different. But Sowebo is Southwest Baltimore. But anyway, mentioned as a bold area to buy in Baltimore. It's not even a real neighborhood. They just made that up.
No, yo, you be fine. Yo, man. Hey, when you see all the movies they put out to portray us, to make us black people look bad in New York, they always go to Harlem or the Bronx. If you go back to those same Bronx, yeah, they can't afford it, right? And what they do, they rename it. They take out graffiti and have graffiti nights, the stuff they will put people in jail with. So it happens. Like right in Boston, there's this place called Mattapan and Ashmont. It's two subway stops. And 10 years ago, you didn't want to be caught dead at night if you didn't know the area.
Right.
And about 4 or 5 years ago, I think I had to get to work early. It was like real early. And I was driving, and I was like half asleep, like I just tired. And I saw a white guy just jogging. Short shorts, cold. I was like, man, stuff is about to change. 2 years later, I start seeing condos going up, and everything flipped out. And then and that was one, is they all of a sudden somehow they start changing the name. They get us to use the name in our music. We start wearing the shirts. They start buying the houses. And it's just
Right.
like, yo, what is going on? So,
Yep.
and something that you said, ROI, return on investment. So everybody that out there, when you hear someone in real estate say ROI, because I do have a lot of people on the platform that, you know, they're learning. That's why they come, and I want to bring us a safe place for them to ask any questions they want. And one of the things is the return on investment. So you said it's like good in Baltimore. So like when you say good, like what's a return on investment people can think about there?
So, so with the property values being relatively low, right? So you could, in some neighborhoods, probably buy a property for less than $100,000. You know, everyone was talking about $5,000 houses. I'm not big on talking about that for new folks because that means you're doing $140,000 renovation. You're just not thinking about that part yet. So let's say you're getting a house, a rental grade house for, I don't know, $75,000, which is very much possible. The property probably is 3 beds, at least 1 bathroom. That's gonna typically rent for between $1,000 to $1,100 a month. And so when you think about, and then that $75,000 house, you know, so let's say you have a mortgage on it, it's probably gonna be what, maybe $400, $500 maybe a month. Taxes are probably going to be maybe about $400 or $500 a year, right? So you have this opportunity to really cash flow, especially if you do the work front end, right? So you're not just buying a house and throwing a tenant in there because you want to check, but doing the work to set the foundation, make sure you're not going to get a call every day because the toilet won't flush and the sewer's backed up and everything else is going wrong, right? The roof is leaking. And so when you do that work on the front end, cash flow, there's a really great opportunity to cash flow and cash flow pretty doggone well. Like our first Baltimore property, we might have been all in for around $40,000. We rented it out for, and this a couple of years ago, so all in $40,000, rented it for $1,100 a month, right? So, okay, not bad. Our mortgage.
Wait.
Yeah, go ahead, go back.
Wait. All in, buy, rehab, or cosmetics, whatever it was, $40,000, and it rented for $1,100. Yo, Norfolk Capital, you hear that? I think we need to go down there with your bank and start investing. That's amazing.
That was our first Baltimore deal. Yep.
So your mortgage couldn't be more than like $500.
Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't that much. Yeah. So we were good. The taxes on that house were like $450 a year. Yeah. And that was unit 4 because we already had a 3-unit in Hartford that we still own that was cash flowing up there, right? So when you talk about snowball, and so the way your mentor did it, he refied out and kept kind of going through that and getting short term, doing the work, refining out, keep going. Us, we used a lot of like OPM, we used a lot of different strategies. We seller finance, we use nonprofit lenders, we use all of these different things, private money, all this different stuff. So we snowballed like that without doing the refi because we had more patient capital. And so ours went crazy as well because we were getting that getting high cash flow and being able to roll that into the next property, and we worked, right? So I haven't worked for anyone else for about 5 years now. It'll be 5 years this in May, which is crazy. I've been working full-time in real estate for 5 years, but prior to that we had some pretty doggone good jobs, right? So we were able to, you know, really focus on our goals, going back to where we started the conversation. What are we looking
and making sacrifices, not you know, I'm sure Red Bottoms wasn't in the picture right away.
It wasn't. And honestly, it's still not, right? And so it might be cute for some people, but like I have, you know, there's some things that I'm trying to do. And there was a phase probably pre-real estate where the Red Bottoms and the, you know, the purses and the Gucci and the right? I do all that, but you shift and you grow as you learn and understand more, right? And so I don't got to stunt for nobody because I know what it is, right? But yeah, so we were able to really sacrifice and be focused on our goals and just let that snowball, let the rental income snowball into the next property. And then we just kept scaling to the point where now, now we're doing 8-figure development deals, right? It's different. The conversation's different, right? But we're able to take what we learned along the way, getting started and building that initial portfolio to make sure that we aren't the only ones that have a story like we do, right? And make sure that every door that we've ever kicked down in Baltimore, we have folks that are ready to walk through and get it done and be able to build wealth and build Baltimore. That's it.
Man, that's amazing. That's amazing. So someone has it on here. So how are like the people like bigger? Someone's asking like apartment building. Not particularly probably like built from scratch, obviously, but are there opportunities in that space where you have bigger like so my mentor, like he wouldn't come down there to buy like, just a unit or something like that. He's more on looking for big buildings or someone that I had on in my clubhouse from Real Estate for the Culture, Noel, he deals with high-end clients. So he had contacted me saying, hey, if you see any, he had a client that needed to do a 1030 exchange.
1031 exchange.
1031 exchange for $10 million. So is Baltimore a nice place to put that type of money, renovate when you're looking for that long-term cash flow and whatnot?
Yeah, there's definitely some value add commercial apartment buildings here. You just want to make sure you're doing your due diligence, right? So your cap rates and stuff typically on larger apartment buildings are a little bit tighter than in some spaces, like you're placing your money, but there's value add opportunity, which is what most people want to do.
Yeah.
So they're more focused on being able to refi out and raise the value through value add. But there's absolutely opportunity for that in Baltimore. I don't know what it is. And it might fall back to the conversation about the red bottoms, but there's nothing like it for me to go to the auctions for those big buildings and everyone's in their suit and their tie and all this stuff. And I walk up like my hoodie and my jeans and, but yeah, there's definitely opportunity on that end. You just want to know where you are and what you can expect and what the opportunity is so that you're putting yourself in the best position to be successful.
All right, the elephant in the room. When I think of Baltimore, I think of The Wire. Particularly, I don't know all the, like, what seasons. Hey, if y'all are out there and when we were talking Baltimore, y'all were thinking of Wire, hit the heart. Let's keep it real. If y'all were thinking of Wire, right? But particularly in one of the seasons, I forget the characters' names, but they were killing people and putting them in the vacant buildings and then putting the that's why, like, I grew up in the Caribbean, so that's why I get Baltimore, right?
Yeah.
So someone investing is like, yeah, I could get this for a cheap rate. I could do all this, but am I gonna find the renters? Am I gonna be having headaches with and that's the thing where, and I just want to keep it real. Some people think of like, yo, I love my hood, I love my people, but I just don't have the capital. I don't have the resources to be driven out at a loss because of bad actors, right?
Sure.
So how would you respond to those people?
Yeah, so you can get a terrible renter in a white neighborhood quick, right? That's your process.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that you're screening tenants. I don't care where you are. You should have a clear, consistent process for screening tenants. Because usually people are getting bad tenants because they're rushing the process, rushing to get a check and not paying attention to the long game. Outside of that, again, you want to think about, okay, if you bought this house for $5,000, right?
Why is it $5,000?
You didn't put $2,500 into it, so it looked like it's worth $5,000, and you're the only house on the block, right? Who wants to live there? And so you also have to understand that there is, that you have to make sure that you're putting yourself in a position of success, right? So if only certain, like, if there's no opportunity, there's no other houses in like a 3-block radius, then there's only going to be so many people who are going to want to live there. So not only are you going to have a hard time renting, you're also going to be attracting a certain type of tenant. So you have to make sure that you're thinking through all those and don't get blindsided by the dollar signs on the front end, but think through the project all the way through. And that's another thing that people really jack up coming into Baltimore from other markets, because they get so excited about the numbers and don't think through the business, right? You have to think through the business and think of, you know, the customers that you're going to attract, because that's what tenants end up being. And that tends to help with that process. So don't get it twisted about Baltimore, right? Baltimore has tons of hospitals. So that's doctors, nurses, tons of universities and colleges, that's students, that's teachers, that's professors. There are, you know, Under Armour, there is 3 or 4 different Amazon warehouses within a few miles radius. And so there are lots of jobs here. And it's continued to grow, right? There's more and more coming into Baltimore every day, which is really, really exciting. But you have to understand, you know, and this is why we keep the news off on the TV, right? They're going to tell you one narrative. I can walk down the streets and see something completely different. I'd rather focus on that. But at the end of the day, you know, there's plenty of ways to make sure you're putting yourself in the best position possible for your goals. If your goal is to buy something cheap, then you only want to put a few dollars into it, you're going to have a cheap experience, right? But if you want to focus on your goals and getting the best results, you have to take the steps necessary to make those things happen.
Perfect. And I asked a question because I figured you had the answer, right? And that's the case. And the shameless plug moment. And most of this information, you're going to teach them in your free class tomorrow, correctly?
Yeah, the free class tomorrow, we're going to go through it all, stuff you got to know about what's happening right now in Baltimore, why you need to be investing in Baltimore right now. Super excited about that. The link is in our bio. We have a lot of fun. If anyone's ever come to any of our classes, we have a great time in our lives. So we'll have a great time, share a ton of information. We have a live Q&A at the end. It'll be super dope. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so definitely. And also make sure you follow their page. Make sure you follow on my page, because one thing I respect about them is that they give out tons of information. And a lot of times people feel like, oh, I can't give out a lot of information because I want to draw them in. But they're different. They give you so much information that you're like, if they're giving me this much information, like good gems, you're gonna want to work with us because you know we're genuine. And that's what and when I see your page, you and your husband's page, that's what I think. Y'all are genuine, because the knowledge you're putting out there, like for me, sometimes I'm thinking like, yo, like if Baltimore's that hot, why you put ring the bell for? Like,
no, that's a great question, and that's come up before. But the truth is, like, we decided years ago, around the time of we were probably on unit like 5 or 6 maybe, and Michaela was really little, and we were like, yo, there's so much opportunity in Baltimore. We can't do it on our own, right? And so there's power in collaboration. And our goal is to really transform Baltimore the right way. I can only do so much myself, but if I'm able to pour into all of these other people, I'm able to drive home ownership back into Baltimore. I'm able to bring, you know, Black home buyers back to the city. I'm able to, you know, really put in position Black investors and developers. I'm able to put people to work, give people jobs.
Y'all better be hitting that heart right now.
All of those things really, you know, at the end of the day, what we're building is a legacy, and that legacy goes so much further than ourselves. When we look at all the people that we work with and we're interacting with on a day-to-day basis, who are building generational wealth for themselves off of, you know, the strength of maybe mistakes that I made along the way that they didn't have to, or, you know, connections that I made along the way that now they can leverage. And so that's what we're all about, is building Black wealth and building Baltimore. And at the end of the day, if we're the only ones doing it, it's not enough. You know, we have a 7-year-old daughter. She needs to grow up and see people who look like her, who understand her experience, right? She got stamps in her passport. She going, you know, she's talking. It's so funny. She overheard a conversation with our contractor last week, and she was like, "Mommy, like he's not on time." I said, "No, baby, he's getting behind on the work." She was like, "And you're still paying him?" I said, "Well, we talking about it." She's like, "Well, he should be fired." I said,
Oh man,
"You're right, girl." So
man, it sounds like if I don't get in Baltimore within the next 11 years, she gonna take over. She gonna be like, yo, bump all that. Let me buy what I gotta buy now.
he's something else. She was like, "And we still paying him?" I said, "Well, baby, we didn't give him the payment yet." Like she was going on me like, "Well, mommy, why ain't you fired?" You right.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing. I just want to do a shout out to my friend Odell. Because as I said, I was born in America, but I grew up in Guyana, South America. A lot of people might be hearing about it because of the amount of oil they're finding, and he's on here. And one of the reasons why I want to learn so much about this stuff, because I want to go back to, it's a Caribbean country, British, used to be a British colony, and I want to do this back in Guyana by rejuvenate some of those areas that people really talk down on, where because it's really Indians and Africans, but the African communities are the low communities, Indian communities are high, and I want to take this back to Guyana also. So shout out to Odell, man. Soon, once we get all this information, we meet in New York, and then we head to Guyana to get it done.
Let's get it done.
No, so this is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So with the funding, like, how do y'all, like, with projects like this, what type of funding do you do? Do you like raise with like people you know? Are you going conventional? Are you going like hard money? What's going on with that?
So it depends on the deal and what we're doing. I'll be honest, a lot of times we get tapped for things more often than we go look for them. And so we kind of get pulled into situations where it just all kind of comes together. So there's like a point where stuff just kind of just like a magnet. It just continues to come together. But we have some deals where we're working with banks. We have some deals where we're working with private lenders. We have some equity investors that put in a good amount of funding. It really just depends on the deal and how we want to stack the capital. We've done tax credits. We've done, some projects that had some live tech involved. We've pulled together some pretty complex capital stacks. And the thing is, outside of NextGen and our mentees, folks don't know the stuff that we do behind the doors. Y'all see a couple houses here or there. We might jerk something out a little bit. But really, in actuality, we're doing a lot of higher scale development at this point that are, we talk about buying the block, right? We're actually spent the last couple of years doing blocks, like multi-block projects. But yeah, so those capital stacks are a little bit more complex and will incorporate a lot of different levels.
All right, that's amazing. So one thing someone said, they said, it's the stamps and the baby's passports for me. Yo, that's amazing. And it's true, because so many people, they like when me and my wife got married 2 years ago, they say, oh, you better travel now, because once you get married and have kids, you stop traveling. No. If I do the right thing, I could do all that and still travel, because I have that residual income. I'm not going to splurge. I'm not going to spend more. We're going to spend money. Our goal is to spend money on experiences and real estate, and then let that pay to the point where then we could start buying stuff that we might love. So that's what we're doing. So what are some books you would recommend people to read that might be helpful outside of your free course tomorrow? Yeah,
for sure. So I'm big on mindset. I'm very big on making sure that your head is where you want to go. I'm definitely a visionary, so I live a couple years ahead of time, and so really keeping your mindset where it needs to be. Some of my favorite books, and my library is like right over there, but some of my favorite books are going to be I love the 10X rule. That's more business, but thought of that. So love the 10X rule. There's also a book.
I hope y'all are writing this down.
Yeah, there's also a book by Russell Simmons actually called, I believe it's called The Still Within.
The
That's a really
Still
great book.
Within.
Mm-hmm. That's a really great book. Um, for those of you who are building businesses and trying to set yourself up for like systems and building a team and building the right team, Traction is a really good book. Um, uh, there's another one. There's a few that I start to read. I haven't started to read it yet because I'm still stuck in the middle of Obama's book. It took me longer than I planned because it's like a dictionary.
Oh
Um,
man, the same thing happened when I was reading started reading Michelle's Obama a book, man. I was just like, wow, it was good, but it was just I was just like, man, they put some time into their books.
his is a solid 772 pages. Like it's so big. So I usually read, and there's one book that I read every single year, and I can't think of the name of it right now. But those who are getting started in real estate, there's also a book by the guy who started the brokerage, the $1 Million Real Estate Investor. That's a really good book for those who are getting started. Lots of definitions, lots of that kind of information. Um, yeah, I love reading. I really enjoy reading. That's when I'm at my best, is when I have time to read in addition to everything else.
There's one book that I tell a lot of people, and you would think I work for 50 Cent, but his latest book, Hustle Hard, Hustle Smart, it's very sneakily like amazing book. And also when you read his book, you realize all those stuff that gets you mad and gets you responding and gets you talking about him on Instagram, he does it on purpose. Like, so when he came out with the whole Trump and taxes stuff and everybody blew up, because I read his book and I'm like, man, 50 is so smart. And when you just hear, everyone thinks he's lucky, but the book is just amazing, regardless if you're in music, if traditional business, real estate, whatever it is, sports, like just everything he went through and the mindset he carried, is just amazing. It's just amazing. So
Yeah,
it
that's
looks
actually
like
on
at
my
some
book
point,
list. I heard it was good. I haven't read it yet, but I did hear it's good.
it is absolutely amazing. So I have about a few more questions, but we may come to the ending. So shameless plug. Let people know what's going on tomorrow.
Yeah, so tomorrow we have a free class on what's popping in Baltimore, why you need to know what's going on, and why you need to get in the game of real estate in Baltimore. So that link is in our bio. Definitely register and join us live for the free class tomorrow.
Perfect. So, is there anything else you would like to let the people know about Baltimore or real estate? Because sometimes I may not have asked the right question that you're like, man, this is what the people need to know. Like, what is that?
Yeah, I
Speak
mean,
to that.
I think that one thing that's really, really important to remember and understand is that you can absolutely do both. You can add value in the community while you're making sure that all your dollars make sense with your deals. And so it's really, really important. And this is part of that conversation yesterday in Clubhouse. We talked about gentrification. And of course, I don't think gentrification is our fault, but really, the fact that what happens from here is our responsibility. And so being very thoughtful and intentional about what you're doing and how you're doing it, as it pertains to the success of the community in which you're investing, but also being intentional and a good steward of your own money, right? And being thoughtful about how you're spending it and making sure you're positioning yourself to do more and earn more, and really thinking about, that next generation for yourself. And so, it's possible to do both. And I have, a couple of videos on our YouTube about, community development versus gentrification, and how do you make sure you're doing the right thing. And so for those who are interested in that conversation, check those out. Some of them are a little bit spicy. I might have been in a mood, I might have been kind of passionate about it, but
It's authentic.
It's very authentic, because it's what we're passionate about. This is, I've fully found like my purpose and my passion in this work of supporting the development of Baltimore and making sure that, you know, again, as the Baltimore changes and develops, that we have a say in what that looks like, and that we're building wealth along the process rather than talking about what we could have or should have or would have done if we had the better information. So now I'm like, I'm giving you the information. I have the resources. I have the access. I know how to get it done. Let's do it. You know, let's stop talking about it and get it done.
I like that. So so before I ask you the last question that I ask everybody that I do interviews with, right? Wait, I lost my train of thought. Oh, that was weird. I just lost my train of thought. But make sure you follow their page. Make sure you go to their YouTube channel, because as I was saying, and I'm not just saying it because they're on here, this is the reason why, and you could ask her, it's been a while since I've been trying to get them on this interview, is because her and her husband are 1,000% authentic. And they have truly found a way to help the community and be able to make a living, because it's not easy. Like, so when I started this and just helping, so many people call me now and they want to have a phone call and get advice and whatnot. And I'm just like, man, like, I wish I could do this full time, but it's not. And how can I help people, but at the same time, you know, do what I want to do and help? And so like now it's like that balance of, do I schedule like you know, those app things and make people pay, and then I donate something, like, you know, it's hard on me because I want to get information out there for people for free, and it's tough. And then when I see what you guys are doing, just giving this information for free and finding that balance of still being able to call yourself a true capitalist, a true entrepreneur, but you are helping the community. You're rolling your sleeves up and you're getting in the ground and you're teaching people how to do it. It is truly, truly amazing. And I just want to, you know, thank you and your husband for what you're doing, because I know it's not easy. I know people probably come at y'all all the time and whatnot, and don't let them stop you, and continue doing what you're doing. So definitely follow them on their Instagram, follow them on their YouTube. Same with me, follow me, YouTube. I try to get all the information out there. I try to get the best interviews that I think you get your information. So do that. So the big question, when you eat cereal, what goes into the bowl first? The cereal or the milk?
The cereal. What kind of question? Who puts milk in their bowl first?
Yo, there is a milk movement out there. And I remember when my first interview, me and my wife was like, what? Someone was like, you put the milk first, then the cereal, because they don't want the cereal to get soggy.
But what if you put too much milk? And then you have like too much milk for the cereal, or like,
man,
you gotta watch
you,
the people who do the milk first, you gotta watch them. Something ain't right.
Exactly. So since then, I asked it on that first interview, and I was like, you know what? I just got to keep it going. I all keep on asking, finding out. I need to flush out these milk, you know, these milk gates. The milk gate.
That ain't right.
All right, perfect. Thank you. So before we end, I want you, shameless plug, let people know what's going on tomorrow evening.
Yeah, so tomorrow we have our free class on investing in Baltimore, what you need to know, what's happening in Baltimore, how you can put yourself in position, right? Understanding what's going on so that you can make better decisions on how you invest. And of course, how you can work with us, how we're helping people build their own wealth and build Baltimore alongside us, and really kind of get the full curtains open behind the scenes on what's going on so that they can build their own and buy their own blocks. So yeah, that's tomorrow night. So hopefully we'll see you guys there. It's a lot of fun. It's free. You can rock with us after. You don't have to, whatever. It's still a ton of information. We're always about dropping the gems and having and being able to have a good time, share information, make sure folks are positioned to take action.
Yeah, and I'm going to be on there. I'm actually, because usually we have the real estate for the culture on Tuesday night, but I'm actually pushing it so I could join you, because I really want to learn, you know, and meet this next gen fam, like,
Yes,
man, they
yes.
roll
Next
deep.
Gen is everything. Yes, we're super deep, and they are killing it. And our goal, really for over the next 3 to 5 years, is Next Gen's buying 200 and 2,400 properties in the next 3 to 5 years. We're on the road to developing 15% of the vacancy in Baltimore. That's what we're doing. We are transforming Baltimore, not playing any games. So yeah, that's tomorrow at 7:30.
7, yeah, someone was just asking, yeah.
Yeah, tomorrow at 7:30. The link is in our bio to register. It's free, it's live, it'll be tons of fun, lots of information, full Q&A at the end, and we'll talk about how to be part of that Next Gen family, if you're looking to get down with this that much further and really just take action and get it done, because that's what we're about.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you. Definitely see you tomorrow evening. Go
Yes.
to their profile. You go on the link, you can sign up. And yes, it is free. So take advantage of it. Get all the information that you could. Thank you, thank you, thank you again. I know you could have been doing anything else. I'm sure you get pulled in so many different ways. So thank you so much for doing this with me.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. Sorry it took so long, but I appreciate you being relentless and getting this done. This is great. Thank you so much.
Someone asked the time zone. That's
Eastern
Eastern
Standard. We're
time.
talking about, yeah, Eastern time. So 7:30 Eastern Standard. Yeah, see you there.
All right, perfect, perfect. And next, I start harassing you to get you back on one of our clubhouses.
Clubhouses. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Whenever we
Are
could,
they
but I'll email you.
okay?
I'll email you.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
All right, thank you again.
See ya.